Hey all, welcome to my channel. Today I'm just going to talk about basically what you see here. Um, Chris Rock, Selective Outrage, the Netflix special, which was on Saturday. I did watch it on Saturday live. It was pretty funny. I thought it was pretty funny, honestly. Um, and I thought, like the last 10 minutes, of course, it was definitely directed at Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, which is great. I mean, like Chris Rock, you knew it was going to come. It was going to be mentioned, and he was definitely going to go into it a year later, at least. I mean, I thought it would have been earlier, but at least, like this is the perfect forum to do it. I mean, it's a case with Will Smith and Smith as well too. Both the Smiths basically had to realize that this was coming. This was definitely going to come. I mean, the guy's a comedian. Chris Rock is a comedian. He's a genius comedian. It was going to come. It was going to be, he was going to put into his act, and they cannot expect otherwise. I think everyone's anticipating as well too. I mean, if Chris Rock did not address the issue and did not poke some fun at it, and towards them as well too, honestly, I then like it would be questionable on Chris Rock's end at that point. But honestly, I think it was pretty funny. I enjoyed it. Now the aftermath of the show, it's like Monday, and I'm hearing a lot of things now about like everyone's like, well, what Chris Rock did was wrong, calling out Jada Pinkett Smith, the B word, and going after her basically. I'm like, seriously? I mean, the guy's a comedian. What's he gonna do? Would you rather have had him just basically go on all the TV shows and all the TV shows, all the I don't know, press coverages and news programs and such, and go after them right after then? Or would you rather wait a year? I mean, granted, yeah, it was a year later. Definitely timed to the point where the timing between his show and the Oscar, which was a week later, it was a given. I think Netflix was anticipating and expecting that as well too. I mean, they probably worked it out with Chris Rock. Maybe 2 or 3 months in advance. 2 and 3 months in advance. Not advance, but 2 and 3 months after the slap. They're like, you know what? We'll have you do a special. We'll release it during Oscars. And Chris Rock said, I want to do it live, and doing it in Baltimore, where she's from, essentially, Jada Pinkett Smith. But honestly, anyone that's degrading or going after Chris Rock for this, I mean, come on, get over yourself. Honestly, I mean, this is a case where um, the guy was slapped publicly on live TV for making a joke. Meanwhile, other people prior to him were also making practically almost the same joke in a ways as well. To grant, like they were making jokes about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith's relationship and open marriage or whatever crap that is. Honestly, that's a case where like no one was attacking them, but the fact that he made a joke about the Propecia aspect of things, like as far as the G.I. Jane reference. I mean, honestly, it was again a joke, as he was saying, and like it was one of those things where like, should he have attacked her? I don't think he was aware that she had that disease. Had he been aware, he probably would have made a completely different joke at that point then. But honestly, I think it was more of a case where like again, he brought it up, and like even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar brought it up in the after special. It was a case where this was a case where like everyone was coming after Will Smith, talking about his relationship, and especially the fact that like Jada Pinkett Smith cheated on him, and then literally interviewed him, asking what his feelings was about it. Um, and it was a case where like everything boiled up to the point where like Smith realized like what, I'll go after Chris Rock, smaller than me. If it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or if it was The Rock, there's no way he's going after The Rock. He's not going up there to slap The Rock for sure. He's not going after. I don't know any comedian that's jacked up. Honestly, I mean, if it was Adam Sandler, Chris Rock. Well, Chris Rock was the skinniest guy there, and he knew full well that he wasn't going to get attacked and such, or Chris Rock would not retaliate physically with him. Um, so it's one of those things where like people have to get over themselves. For those that are sort of going after Chris Rock into what his show was about, especially those last 10 minutes. I mean, the fact that he was going after Jada Pinkett Smith. I mean, honestly, is he wrong for that? I mean, the fact is she did cheat on Will Smith. he's bringing up valid points, and he was basically pretty much telling everything there was. I mean, did he have to go after her as far as like calling these cuss words against her? Well, honestly, based on the other part, other parts of the show, dude was going crazy with everything else at that point. So why not? I mean, he is a comedian, and he is that edgy comedian. If it was what's his name, Eddie Murphy, probably would have done the exact same thing. My best bet. Tracy Morgan, most likely the same thing. Chris Chucka, for sure, would have went all off on that. Basically, at that point as well too. Um, Kevin Hart, that's a little story, but that's the other thing. Is if let's say if it was Chris Rock or even Kevin Hart, chances are Will Smith would have slapped Kevin Hart as well too, because like dude's a small dude at that point. So like I don't think unless Rock was right there with them, then yeah. But in any case, I enjoyed the show. I liked it. I don't know if others liked it, but it should have. I mean, this is one thing. The one thing though I should say is Netflix changed the game a little bit by making this live. Um, by making this live, I'm kind of curious how much Chris Rock made out of this, basically, because like that's a pretty impressive aspect of like Netflix doing this live. And now the real question is like if there's more money from this, are other comedians that are going to have these Netflix specials like, you know what, I want to do it live too? Because think about it this way, Amazon, they're seeing this, Apple Plus, they're seeing this. They're like, you know what, maybe we can do live too. I mean, they are already doing live at this point, so why not pay a comedian to do it live, and especially a headliner to do it live. The question is, are some comedians willing to do this live right then and there for millions of peoples or billions of peoples for that matter? Because, like, I mean, honestly, Netflix streaming it live to in the U.S. is definitely most likely. I'm assuming they were streaming it live to globally as well too. Um, but you know what? Honestly, like I said, for those that were pretty much taking the negative from the show, that's honestly, I mean, you know what? I think some comedians have said it best. Actually, you know what? Steve Harvey said it best. I forgot who he interviewed with, but Steve Harvey said it best. Basically, there's always going to be that one person you can never please with the joke. You're going to offend someone, no matter what. Like 95% of the room is going to find it funny. The 5% is not going to find it funny. You can't focus on that. Chris Rock, same thing. He doesn't need to focus on that. The small people that are trying to, like they're having issues with it, you know what? They're probably just like, it's more of a case where like they're just trying to bring more to it and add more fuel to it, but putting their voice into it as well too at that point. Honestly, like I said, is it a case where, all right, I could understand from one perspective, yeah, they felt like, hey, look, you were directing a lot of this away from Will Smith towards Jada Pinkett Smith. Like it's like you're picking on a woman. Honestly, I think he was picking on both of them. Quite honestly, I think the more of the case was like not more of the case, but I think what it was is even though it felt like he was directing it toward Jada Pinkett Smith, it probably rightfully so because she literally cheated on him. She literally cheated on Will Smith with her son's friend, and I don't know what was going on with their going on in their heads, what they thought of it, etc. But the fact is that you're willing to interview you as the cuckold being interviewed by the one that had an affair. It's like I don't know what that. I don't even know why he did that. First off, but I guess we know who wears the pants in the family. I mean, honestly, I don't know. He's the breadwinner, but she wears the pants. It sounds like that's what it sounds like. Or feels like basically. And people are like saying basically, oh well, you know what? Jada Pinkett Smith didn't tell Will Smith to go slap him. You know what? Even though she didn't, it's more of a case where like she had these looks, she had these. I mean, we can't tell what she was thinking at the time, but chances are, she did not enjoy the remark that Chris Rock made during the Oscars. I think Will Smith saw her reaction and he was like, you know what? I didn't think he could read his mind a little bit, and like and he was like, she's not enjoying the show. Let me go after him, basically. I mean, it is a case of selective outrage, and that's the thing is like nowadays selective outrage is basically to the point where like you're gonna go after things or people where you don't do it outright to others, but you'll go for someone that won't come back at you at that point, and I see that a lot as well too. That's a different story. That's a different whole touchy subject matter. related, on a psychological level, which I'm not qualified to do at that point. Actually, I'm not qualified even like to know the mindset of what they were thinking of, the Smiths as well as Chris Rock. But I'm just based on observation, based on stuff that I've seen, based on stuff that I've read. It's more of a case where, like, you know what? I think the backlash that Chris Rock is getting from this. I mean, granted, a lot of people are, a majority are enjoyed the show, especially a lot of comedians. Quite honestly, what Will Smith did was wrong, and it changed the game, changed the dynamics of that comic relief or comedy shows, basically, to the point where, like, you saw what happened a month later with Dave Chappelle when he was at the Hollywood Bowl. Some dude basically came up and pretty much attacked him. He thought, hey, if Will Smith can do it, I can do it. That kind of changed the dynamic. And now Chris Rock coming back around and changing it basically to the point of, like, putting the control back in the comedian's court, saying, like, like, you're gonna do this, we're gonna ridicule it. If you want to do this, you have other means to do this. But if you want to do this publicly live to me, I get to do this as well live, and I could come right back at you. Honestly, I'm all for it for him. He had every right to go after them, basically, because what Will Smith did to him live was not good, and I think everyone agrees in a ways, or a majority of people. Some people's like, oh, he deserved it, but you know what? That's different. But in the case of what Chris Rock did, using it in his show, I mean, honestly, the guy's a comedian. They're gonna make jokes about situations, and this is one of those situations. I mean, if he was never gonna address it, it's more of a case where, like, if he didn't address it in this live show and try to bring it into his act, people would have thought, like, all right, maybe Chris Rock has lost it. And in this case, this shows that Chris Rock did not lose his edge. The guy was edgy. I mean, honestly, he touched on a lot of subjects: adultery, abortion, which I was like, whoa, the most taboo subject ever, but he touched on it. Touched on family, touched on, like, pretty much almost everything practically in a ways. So, it's one of those things where, like I said, I enjoy the show. Do not be surprised if other comedians start doing the exact same thing. Chappelle may or may not do it. I think Dave Chappelle might thrive on live comedy shows as well too. So don't be surprised if he does it and he gets paid a boatload of money for this. Same thing with Amazon. Don't be surprised if Amazon Prime starts doing this as well too with other comedians. Like, you know what, we're going to start displaying it live as well too. Apple TV Plus, maybe Hulu. Well, I don't know about Hulu, but Apple TV Plus, I think they're more about the content, but don't be surprised if they start doing that as well too with comedians. Comedy at that point too, stand-up comedy for the live stand-up comedy. Honestly, I would not be surprised because of this, that we start seeing the comedy club and the improv start having their own apps to do live streaming of certain shows. There are some people that won't be able to make the show, so you know what, we'll live stream it at that point. I will not be surprised if they start doing that, because, like, you know what, revenue is revenue, and they're going to need that revenue, and they can share with the comedian, even upstarting comedians. Why not? Or upcoming comedians at that point. So I mean, I mean, it's pretty funny in that aspect if they start doing that as well too. Honestly, because, like, everything's now going to be live stream based app, essentially. But anyways, I'll leave it at that. I mean, let me know your thoughts. Leave it in the comments. I do read my comments. I do try to respond to them. But let me know your thoughts, what you think. Do you think Chris Rock was right or wrong going after Will Smith? Did you enjoy the show? I personally enjoyed it. I loved it, basically. I mean, I thought it was funny. And I actually enjoyed this medium or this format of live, actually. It was pretty impressive. Do you think Netflix will start doing that more and more? Will start doing live? I mean, honestly, it kind of brought me back to the day of Comic Relief from HBO when they did those things live. At least I think they were live. I wouldn't be surprised if some comedians start doing that again, but on Netflix or Amazon Prime or even HBO Max. I mean, actually, don't forget about HBO Max. They'll be probably doing some live streaming at that point as well too. So let's see what happens at that point, honestly. But like I said, please leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts. And also, if anything, thank you for listening to this channel, listening to me rant, watching this video. If you reached it to the 15-minute mark, I really applaud you for that. And I thank you for that. And if you do enjoy my talks and such, please subscribe. Um, honestly, it's great to use this as a medium, as an outlet to talk about some of this stuff. And I'm learning. So if you have comments or feedback on me about this as well too, I'll welcome the feedback as well too. But if you do enjoy my talks or my rants or my vlogs, please again, subscribe and let me know. With that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, and unrehearsed. Until next time.